For more on the SCO Summit and its achievements, I want to bring in Einar Tangen. He's a political commentator who joins us now from Beijing. Welcome back to the show. President Xi Jinping wrapped up the summit with proposals you mentioned to deepen cooperation between the member states. Main themes were security, development, culture, respect, and trust. So 15 years on, what are your thoughts and takeaways from this year's summit?
Well, it was a very, very simple organization when it started, and it's now become much more complex and larger. If it does add India and Pakistan, which looks like it will, you're talking about 1/2 of the world's total population. This is going to have a huge impact. It's also a very interesting juxtaposition between what China is doing in building a newer block of trade and security versus what's now happening in Europe with Brexit.
You mentioned the addition of new members, India, Pakistan. Could a bigger bloc harm or hurt the current dynamics? What does this do for the region?
Well, it's a kind of sweet and sour arrangement. On one hand, you have India and Pakistan who have had tremendous historical difficulties getting along. They're trying to do it, but the positive side of this is you're bringing them to a neutral table where their particular issues will only be part of the agenda, and there'll be a lot of pressure on them to get along. I mean, one of the aspects, imagine Indian and Pakistani troops participating in security enhancement activities and procedures. This will put them together for the first time in a long time, and perhaps this is just the start of a way of communicating a little bit better.
Two-part question for you. Russia is in favor of expanding the SCO even more. And then speaking of Russia, President Putin now in China, what will you look for in the visit there this weekend?
Well, with Putin, he's already said that he's in favor of bringing Iran into the equation. That will be very interesting. Obviously, if Afghanistan comes in, that only leaves Belarus and Mongolia sitting on the sidelines as observers. I think he's looking for a wider trade pact. Obviously, he was disappointed by the 6-month extension of sanctions against Russia, and I think this is in pushing him increasingly closer to China. I think given what's happened in Brexit, this is going to change a lot of the calculations, but overall, because of the amount of resources that Russia has and China needs, I think you're going to continue to see this kind of drift eastward, especially in view of actions in the South China Sea, the relationship with the United States.
Speaking of Brexit, how much of that will be part of the discussion? And looking ahead to the G20, what will happen there with that coming up ahead here in September?
Well, it's anybody's guess. This is going to be a very long and I don't know how long, but it's going to be a very difficult situation. Everybody is at their calculators looking at the data, trying to figure out exactly what this is going to mean to Great Britain. But one outstanding thing is you mentioned earlier about London saying maybe they'll go independent. The UK is a nation where about 80% of its GDP is foreign GDP is dependent on these financial transactions and what comes with them. If that is in fact imperiled, they're not going to be very strong, nor will if Ireland and Scotland leave very great. I think it's going to be a grave miscalculation. I think Putin is going to be looking at what Europe represents now. I think there's going to be a much softer tone there with Britain out of the equation. Remember, Britain played a very, very close role with the United States, whereas France and Germany tended to be more coming to some sort of détente with Putin and Russia. So the political equations change, and so are the economic ones.
One to watch for sure. Einar Tangen, as always, we appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us from Beijing.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.